Oh, and welcome to
Hey, we like your pod.
And we're going to tell you why. Hi, it's Dawn here, and I'm joined, as always, by my trusted partner, Matt Pickett. How you doing, Maddie?
Pretty good, pretty good. I like that you said, as always. That's almost true, Don. There was the 1 week where I was gone, and you had what, Big B and Joey on as guest hosts, and there's another time. Actually, I was gone twice. I've missed 2 episodes because the other time, Steve Perhatch and Jamie were there. So
yes.
That's almost always, but I think
but you're always here in spirit.
I'm always here in spirit. I'll take that.
And
Don, speaking of spirit, I've got the holiday spirit. I'm officially on winter break from work here, so I get a week and a half off basically. So the last 2 days, in fact, I've been off and spending a lot of time with kids, with my family, which means like listening to fewer podcasts because I'm busy with them. But that's not a bad thing necessarily because family comes first, as we know. But I'm feeling in better health than I have been, which is good. So yeah, how about you, Dawn? How you doing?
Yeah, I've just been crazy busy life this month, and I'm finally kind of getting things wrapped up and looking forward to having some quiet time over the next week. So my introvert time where everyone's out with their people, I'm like inside just with my cat. Now I have a cat, but used to be not even with a cat. So yeah, cat's good. We're gonna have I feel badly because I know there's blizzards everywhere, but it's gonna be like 73 degrees here this weekend.
It was like 40 degrees here an hour ago, and it's plummeting down to like negative temperatures by the morning. But that's nothing like what they're seeing in South Dakota. Speaking of, our friend Katie's in the chat. Katie's in South Dakota, and I think she was saying it's like 40 below with wind chill plus the snow coming.
Wow.
My goodness. So it's one of those like contra blessings, and thanks for the compliment to my glasses, Katie. Contra blessings for where you're at, because some people are dealing with some crazy stuff right now. So stay warm, stay healthy, stay safe out there, folks. Especially you, Katie.
Stay home if you can.
Stay home. Above all, stay home.
Keep the door closed. Home. It's not like, I don't know. I'm over it. Like, I've been over it for many years, like not to travel this time of year. So Katie, how's the family? How's everyone feeling? Are you getting healthy there in the Sunderman household? I hope so. So, and speaking of people who are not feeling well, our guest tonight, Kim Colello. Yes. Shout out to Kim. Kim, feel better. Come back another time. It's okay. Kim also got sick. So many sick people.
A lot of sick going around. My wife has just talked to me today about, she took one of the girls for their checkup, like just kind of annual doctor checkup earlier in the week, and was telling them about all the stuff that's going around. And the doctor was like, yeah, we've seen kind of everything in the last month. So just all kinds of stuff.
Oh, yeah. So Katie said only half of her house. So half of your house. So how did they not get it? I mean, I can't even look at somebody without getting sick. I am so immune deficient at this point in my life. And I've had to be on antibiotics so much that I fear one day they're going to stop working. They're still effective with me, but yeah, I don't know how you not get sick. I went out for lunch today and I was sort of afraid. Yeah. Like, should I have gone to
Understandably.
lunch? Yeah.
I mean, like, having gotten through like the times when everyone was wearing a mask all the time, it's like, oh yeah, diseases spread like crazy in public, and especially when there's a lot of people out and about doing their, last minute shopping and their, holiday related stuff like that. Like, just diseases everywhere. No wonder.
Yeah. And I was always the one getting sick, but yeah, I wear the mask, obviously not for lunch because you have to eat, but it'd be kind of cool to figure out a mask that you could eat with. maybe. I
Well, it would
wouldn't be
expose
that
your
in
mouth.
short.
So
Yeah, that's true. But if you could breathe through your nose and eat with your, I don't know.
yeah. Well, you know what the Mandalorian I think would do, you know, on the show The Mandalorian, I think you kind of like raise the helmet a little bit and like just kind of like sneak a spoon under. I think you
Yeah.
might do the math. Just kind of, you know, get in there. This is the way. This is the way.
Straws, like just straw food.
Yes, there you go.
By straw.
Yeah,
So
soup and milkshakes. Totally.
right.
That's a meal.
Right. Smoothies. Yeah.
Smoothies. Yes, there are
Smoothie.
other straw foods.
Straw foods. All right, Maddie. Well, so hey, so I have some fun superlatives tonight. They're a little bit offbeat. A little bit offbeat. And I, like you, have not had a lot of time to listen to content because I've just had a bunch of stuff going on. And so I'm looking forward to hearing what you might have come up with.
All right. Well, before you get into yours, I do just want to say really fast. Also, I want to say a shout out to Kim. Kim, we're looking forward to having you on the show as soon as possible. Hopefully you feel better really soon, and we can't wait to have you on the show. So, all right, just want to say that before we get going too far, and I forgot to. Dawn, what do you got for your superlatives?
Oh, I'm going first. Okay.
Oh, I thought you wanted to. Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. I can do it. Okay, so I have a kind of a themey one. Okay, nice. And so we're at the halftime right now. For those of you who are listening to the podcast on Saturday, we're recording live on YouTube, and we're at halftime for Jaguars at Jets game. And in the pre-show, it was mentioned that CJ, oh gosh, Uzomah. Okay. Can't pronounce things on my podcast. I love him. Okay, so it was mentioned about him being an executive producer of a play on Broadway. Did anyone notice that? Okay, so I wanted to look into it. And so my superlatives are primarily about CJ. I really like this guy. First of all, most adorable. He showed up walking into the Jets stadium today in a pink bunny outfit as a nod to Ralphie. Which is awesome. That is by far my favorite. I don't really do Christmas or anything, but that movie is that's like a year-round hilarious. I love that film. Ralphie. Mm-hmm. So you didn't see the pink bunny outfit?
No, I didn't. Because I was watching stuff with my kids, which actually I should.
Sure.
I'll come back around to that later, but no. So I was watching this with the kids tonight. I only kind of barely saw the first part of the game, but anyhow, it sounds like it was hilarious.
Cool. Well, that was so cute. That was too cute. Of course, this dude is a big old tight end for the New York Jets, so that makes it especially cute because Ralphie's a kid, so you expect him. So, and prettiest outfit goes to Taylor Rooks tonight in her icy blue and ivory outfit tonight on Thursday Night Football in icy New York. I was just thinking that her color vibe was about perfect for his icy white, blue, and she just looked great with her nice little ivory gloves. And it kind of made me want to be in winter for a minute there, just so I could, put on a icy blue snow jacket for about 5 minutes.
Taylor Rooks, right? Who we talked about a couple weeks ago, right? Because she's in that podcast with, who is it with?
With Richard Sherman.
That's right. Yes.
It's so good. It's such a good podcast. Okay, so back to CJ. It's kind of a three-tiered superlative. So most cultured. Okay. So CJ Uzomah. Why do I say Uzomah? Anyway.
No.
Uzomah joins Broadway's Ain't No Mo as a co-executive producer. And there's an article I'll link to in our show notes below. But there's an article that I looked up by Greg Evans. He's a Broadway critic for Deadline publication. And this was just posted about a month ago, just a couple weeks ago, actually. So New York Jets tight end CJ Uzomah signed and is a co-producer of a currently running Broadway production of Ain't No Mo. And it's a Lee Daniels production of Jordan E. Cooper's comedy at the Belasco Theater. So I'm going to get into a little bit more culture on that, but just what they mentioned in the pre-show is that it wasn't just, hey, here's some money, do this. He's actually involved as a producer would be, choosing cast members, the whole thing. And that kind of was what piqued my interest. And so Ain't No Mo is a play that blends sketch comedy, satire, and avant-garde theater to ask the incendiary question: what if the U.S. government attempted to solve racism by offering Black Americans a one-way plane tickets to Africa? And this is just satire. It's meant to be a comedy, but I was just blown away that they would take this on, and evidently it's doing really well. So the Belasco Theater, also a little culture note for tonight. The Belasco Theater, of course, in New York, was built in 1907, and it was designed by architect George Keister for the impresario David Belasco. Who is David Belasco?
Who's David Belasco?
David Belasco was a theatrical producer, director, and playwright from 1884 to 1930. And he is one of the pioneers of modern stage lighting and stage effects. Yeah. And this architect, George Keister, was also the architect of the historic Apollo Theater in New York.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So it's just amazing when you just find out a little something about a player and then you look into it and you think, this is a really cultured dude. And so when he showed up in that little pink bunny outfit, it's because he's a creative, right? He wasn't just, trying to get attention or whatever. He's a creative. And it really made me appreciate him as a human being a little bit more, knowing all this.
I love CJ Uzama, and actually, when you said the name at first, I was like, what do I know about him? He's a former Bengal, right? So he was much beloved here. They couldn't hold on to him because of contracts. You know how that works in the business, of course. But last year, I can't remember if he said if the Bengals won the Super Bowl or if they got a playoff win, which the Bengals hadn't for years. It was if the Bengals did something like this, he would take a bath in Skyline Chili, and that made me be like, this guy's awesome. I love this guy. So yeah, and he's a really good player. So I was really bummed when we the Bengals. No, I'll say we for the Packers. I own the franchise, right? So no, but I can't say we for the Bengals as much. But no, I was bummed when he left Cincinnati. That's for sure. Really good dude for sure. Very very good player, very good person. So. And plus, it turns out my friend Mark Chilson mentions in the comments that he and Kay Adams may have been an item.
Really?
Go ahead, CJ Uzama and Kay for that matter.
Good for them. And she's a New Yorker. She's in New York, and he's now in New York. Very nice. Very nice.
Very interesting.
Well, no, I really liked it, and they didn't talk too much about the actual play or anything, so I had to look some of this stuff up. But they just mentioned that he was, pretty involved, and it was super, super, super. And plus, I want to see this. I mean, this is really an interesting thing to make fun of or to explore on a comedic level. This idea that we know who mentioned this as a possibility, right? We're not going to mention where that idea came from by offering plane tickets one way. So good for them for making it into a comedy, a production. So yeah.
Very interesting.
So those are my superlatives for the night.
I love that this was spurred just by seeing CJ Uzama in a bunny suit, just from there.
And everything, and also the theme, which I totally forgot to mention. So the theme is really Thursday Night Football tonight.
Oh,
so the prettiest outfit, the most adorable, and then the most cultured. Yeah,
love it.
All came from the little tidbits that they dropped in the pre-show. So, and I do like their show. I really do like the Thursday Night Football pre-show and post-game show a lot.
They did good work with that for sure.
Yeah. So,
awesome. All right, Don. Well, my superlatives tonight do also have a theme, much like yours did. So this is going all back to an article that came out last Friday. So since we record on Thursdays, this came out just after we recorded last week's episode, so we haven't had a chance to talk about it yet. But it was the article in The Athletic that Kaylin Kaler wrote about Aaron Rodgers and the hand signs. And hopefully anybody who's listening to this knows what we're talking about. But just quick bit of exposition on this is that apparently Aaron Rodgers has his own set of 30 or something, probably much more than that, hand signs that he uses at the line to call plays or make checks and stuff like that. And there's an expectation that the other wide receivers learn all these things, but they don't write them down. They don't make videos of it. There's no way they're going to let anybody do that, because then they could leak out and they'd have to change everything. Right. So it's this really hard to learn part of the offense. And so Kaylin Kaler is a writer for The Athletic and interviewed a whole lot of different wide receivers who have been currently in or previously in Green Bay, talking to them about what this system was like, how difficult it is to learn it, but of course, how effective it is when the people have it down. And that's part of, Aaron Rodgers' computer, genius mind, has ability to see the coverage and be okay, let's do this thing. I'm seeing it right now. Let's do this. And so there's been a lot of discussion about it. So in fact, that this particular superlative about this article is best conversation catalyst, because you got people with takes on both sides, from people saying, oh, this is how Aaron Rodgers is a bad leader and he's not setting them up for success, and that's on him as the leader. And other people saying, this is the wide receiver's job. They're getting paid a lot of money to do it, learn the system, and, get out there and be ready. And it was such a fascinating look into what it's like, when they talk about there's the LaFleur offense, but also the Rodgers offense. And you have to learn about both. So it's this is a really good concrete example of that and how it plays out. So just the article alone was super fascinating, and the discussions that it kind of led to, I thought, just made for a really great week of interesting content between articles and podcasts and everything else. I feel it was brought up everything I was reading and listening to this last week. So that was awesome. So then Katie's asking, did you listen to Pat talk about this article? Pat
McAfee?
Pat McAfee. Yeah, that was, if you talk about Pat McAfee, that was some weird stuff, because Rodgers was they're anonymous sources or whatever. It's they were all on record. It was very clear who was saying what. They were quoted. It was not anonymous. So read the article, Aaron Rodgers. And Pat McAfee was agreeing with him, of course, because that's what he's going to do. But then later was oh, okay, I screwed that up. I'm sorry. He kind of apologized about it.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good apology. I mean, not amazing, but pretty good, which I appreciate.
Pat or Aaron?
No, Pat. Aaron.
Of course. He's so weird. Sure. Okay. I have a question about this, because I picked up on a bit of this. Is this mostly just the rookies, though, that are having it's not the wide receiver?
Well, good question, right? Because it's the people who seem to be the most, I don't want to say complaining about it, but if we go there, seem to be Amari Rodgers and
right.
Or I think it was kind of complaints coming from the guy we just cut. What's his name? I can't think of it all of a sudden.
Oh, well,
better wide receiver.
Yeah, Sammy Watkins.
Thank you. Yeah. Sammy Watkins seemed to kind of complaining about it. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily even say that they were complaining, but more talking about how it's difficult.
Right. I didn't take it as a complaint. They just mentioned it.
Kylan Hill talked about it too, actually. Yeah, thanks, Aaron, and also Mark. And I should point out something that Aaron said here in the comment. She said I felt super misogynistic. That's because Kaylin Kaler, a woman journalist. The way how Aaron Rodgers was so dismissive of it, I definitely agree. Aaron felt very misogynistic. Totally with you on that. So
I'm really surprised. I'm so surprised by that. Really,
it's a good point. So that article alone, I don't get paid by the Athletic to endorse them, but man, having a subscription to the Athletic is definitely worth it. It's one of the things I look at the most. The writing's outstanding. One of my, this is unrelated, but one of my daughter's best friends actually writes for the Athletic, following the Cincinnati Reds for them. So all the reason to support this wonderful organization. So that was my first one, best conversation catalyst. See, it's even getting conversations going in the chat here. It's that good.
It was, and I think it started with Amari Rodgers was the first one to make the comment, and then it kind of went from there, right?
that was how the article was structured for sure. I don't
Right.
know if he would have been the first person to have said something that kind of caught Kalen Kaler's ear that like led to the creation. I'm not sure what the genesis of it was exactly. Um, but yeah, amazing article. So good. So, as I mentioned, there's a lot of conversation that came out of this, but I think the point that I liked the best, the take that I heard that was like, okay, I hadn't thought about that. It's a good point. Came from Mike Wall, who is on Video Pack a Day once a week, usually with Andy Herman. And so this one
Right.
came out probably on Friday, or no, I think it came out on Saturday.
Mhm.
They recorded Friday, came out Saturday last week.
Mhm.
And the point that Mike made was that if you've got this set of hand signals that the coaches don't know and can't reference and can't teach, what you really have here is like a very dangerous system where you kind of, having, if it was like Matt LaFleur said, here's our offense, and then Aaron Rodgers does a little bit of stuff on the side, like, and it fits within, like, that's fine. But when you have like these two competing things that aren't communicating, and that's the key, that are not communicating, that causes all kinds of problems. And I feel like that's so indicative of like what seems to be, Aaron Rodgers thinks he runs the Green Bay Packers. He kind of does, and it's not supposed to be like that. So
No,
it's
he runs it when they're doing well, but not when they're not.
yeah. Then I'll say we need to simplify the offense, buddy. do you? Is that right, Aaron Rodgers?
Uh-huh.
So suffice to say, yeah, that point that Mike Wall made on the Pack a Day with Andy Herman about how this is just having this kind of lack of communication between the people kind of like running the ship is going to lead to problems. And obviously we see that. I mean, the very next game, when they're playing the Rams, they lose out on a touchdown because Aaron Rodgers is throwing a hand signal at Christian Watson when they're right like in the red zone. And then he's like, well, Christian should have seen the hand signal. If you want to,
Oh,
catch touchdowns, you gotta know the routes. It's like, yeah, but you're not communicating it at all, man. So it's
that's why I can't listen to anything at all, but especially his press conferences. And I did see that he said that because everyone was, and I just can't with him. I just can't.
I know. So that was my favorite take from all of the discussion around it. So second one, third and final superlative for you, Don. This was funniest reaction to this whole entire thing was a little video that Tyler Herrick put together for Cheesehead TV. He's a video master. The stuff that he does is amazing, and it was like basically a trailer for like a docu-series about the hand signals that Aaron Rodgers does. It was perfect.
I didn't see that.
So good. I would highly recommend going back and checking it out. It was incredible. And so the thing about this, right, is that any of these things that get into the news that people are talking about, like, I could go and like make a meme and post it and it'd be like, slapdash and homemade or whatever. When Tyler does something like this, it's like this amazing, well-produced video that looks professional because he's professional. It's professional. I'm not gonna say it looks professional. It is professional. And just so funny and just so like creative and well made. So Tyler, man, hats off. That was incredible.
Yeah. Tyler and Aaron says Tyler is the GOAT. Incredible, amazing, does not get nearly the credit he deserves. I love him. Yeah. I think I agree with, I think we're on the same page with a lot of things, like, particularly the things we were just talking about. And I don't want to go on and on about it. By the way, I have a bonus superlative. Speaking of Aaron Ellis, funniest parents goes to Aaron Ellis's mom and dad for their request for a cover design for their folder of important papers. Theme, that's all, folks. Porky Pig. Did you see that?
No, I'll have to check that out. And I will say, if I can just interrupt your superlative for a second, her parents are hilarious. I got to meet them in real life. They bought me cheese curds. Super nice people. So funny. Yeah, if you think Aaron is let's say raunchy, crude, I guess would be the words to use here. You should see where she gets it from. Her parents are amazing. So
well, I think Aaron's here in the chat. Hi, Aaron. Erin mentioned things about her mom, or maybe said my mom said this or that in the past. So I kind of got that feeling. But of course, for those listening, we're talking about Erin from On Brand Off Topic and Game On Wisconsin and the Watching Stuff pod. So yeah, one of our treasures.
And last call.
And like, oh gosh, that's not even it. I have to put that in here because is that in her profile? Probably ran out of room in her profile. Well, that's part of Game On Wisconsin, isn't it?
True. Yeah, I mean, technically so is On Brand Off Topic because they host it, but whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We're good. We just want to know who we're talking about here. There was something I wanted to ask you about though, back on that press conference, and then the article that came from that, and what Amari Rogers said. I just want to say, this just sounds like that person at a company, right, who is constantly sabotaging what everyone else is trying to do because they want to either be right or they want to have credit or whatever. And being right and having these secrets is more important than winning. And that's really frightening that I'm even thinking that. But I mean, you're nodding your head yes, so hopefully I'm not too off base.
Well, so my take on that, because I don't totally disagree, but in my line of work, in academic advising, there are times when we're told from above, like, this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to do it, and fall in line. And there have been people I've worked with in the past, and I've actually been this guy once or twice, like years ago. I've learned my lesson, where I'm like, well, I know better how to do this than y'all do, so I'm going to do it my own way, and I don't care what you say, I'm just going to kind of try to get away with it. Really don't do that anymore, really. But I know people who do, and like, it never ends well. That's why I don't do that anymore, because it never ends well, because then like all of a sudden you're doing a thing and your colleagues see that like you're doing something like against the way you're supposed to be doing it, and then like just it messes things up. Like, you have to have everybody on the same page, and having two bosses, or like this person going against what the company's doing, that's
especially a team sport. My goodness, like, come on.
Exactly.
It's a team sport anyway. Okay, I got that out of my system.
Good.
It's a team sport. Yeah, that's all I'll say about it.
There you go.
Okay, there's several people in the audience. Where do you guys are we thinking? Where do we in the audience come down on this? Because I think this was a big thing this week too. Probably another reason I wasn't really on Twitter, because I try to avoid. I have enough negative thoughts on my own. I don't need anyone to give me any more. So what do you think? Do we think Aaron Rodgers is a good team leader and a team player, or is he just stuck in his own head? Is that a good way to put it? Just kind of can't see outside of his own.
Well, I mean, it's well documented that he thinks he's the smartest person in the room at all times, and so that mindset I'm talking about, where like you feel like you're right and everyone else is wrong, and you're doing things the best possible way, like the way how he does things when it works is amazing, but then you see this stuff like it should have been an easy touchdown, but he wasn't communicating well. So it's complicated. He's a complicated fella, Mark Murphy, sledding king Mark Murphy wasn't wrong about that. He's definitely a complicated fella. Katie made the point here in the comment. She said, but then you hear stories about how much Nixon loves him. And I think like, to paint it as simply as like, for these reasons, his teammates hate him or they love him. It's like, because it's not that simple. Of course, Nixon loves him.
Right.
He's been talking to Rodgers. He's been a good example of like how not like Rodgers won't talk to people. Like he will, and he'll help them out if they're struggling. And so that I think that's the whole thing's very complicated, right? Because you can't say it's as simple as he's a bad guy or a good guy.
No.
Some people have certain like reactions to him. I mean, on the team, to say nothing of like the fans and the media.
But think about this. Nixon's basically plays the defense and then he runs the balls back. So he's not somebody who's on the offense for the most part. He's kind of special.
Wants to be though. Did you hear about all that this week? He was like, petitioning to be like a slot receiver for them.
Well, but what I mean by that is and naturally you're going to want to publicly say good things about Rogers because he likes that a lot, So, and by the way, heroin or Aaron, my parents, we're dead file.
We're dead file.
That's all, folks. Anyway, yeah, everyone has, and Aaron says everyone has different ways of learning and leading. But the thing that stood out to me was, at least with Amari Rogers, he said he wasn't approachable. He couldn't approach him.
And so that's interesting, right? Because Amari Rogers was in his first couple of years and felt like he couldn't talk to him, but like other players have said they could. There's like the stories of, was it Devontae Wyatt last summer would just like go up and like sit with him at lunch and talk to him. And so that's another thing that Mike Wall said in that episode with Andy Herman. He was saying that this was coming off like real, like old man shaking his fist to the clouds when he said this, but he's saying it's a generational thing. Like the young people think they're special and deserve to be coddled and like deserve to like get awards for everything.
Right.
Which, okay, boomer, whatever. But, but it's an interesting point because it's like, should these players like, it's complicated, man, right? I mean, just go talk to him. Don't be intimidated. Just go talk to him. He's a person. He's on the team. That was a thing that, in fact, it reminds me of when Big B was talking about he's going to go and meet Aaron Rodgers for the Make-A-Wish weekend that he had with the team. The excuse me, the conversation we got into about it on Twitter that pulled in, I think, like Dusty and Jacob Westendorf was like, he's just a person, man. He poops, he puts his clothes on, he does the same things you do. He's just a person. Like, yes, he's talented quarterback, generational talent. But he's still just a person, Yeah. And that was a whole separate thread, but it's funny because then Dusty's like, dude, you better ask him like if he had a good BM today. There was this whole like thing. It just, I should go back and find it, repost it. It was hilarious. The guys were being funny in that one. But suffice to say, he's just a person, you don't have to be like afraid of him, and he'll give you he'll throw the ball more often if you're friends with him anyhow. So
right. No, I think so too. And I kind of got that with Amari Rogers too. Maybe part of it was him feeling like he couldn't because he was so old, like he's so much older than him and that kind of thing. That didn't come off really great in the article, but I'm not exactly sure. All I care about is whether he's a good team player or not. Because if he's so self-centered or so stuck in the walls of his epic mind, which I don't think it's that epic, but whatever.
You think so?
Then how can he be a good team player? And I mean, we're not winning, and so there we go.
Two really, really good points. There you go. Katie said, I can't read it. So funny. Katie said in the chat, Bach talked about pooping today after his appendectomy, and I'm no longer fangirling. Literally lolling, obviously, literally lolling, Katie. And then Mark had a really good one up here, if you want to put that on the screen. So Mark Chilson said, the Rodgers form of offense has been studied by players since they were kids. When he opts out of the new concepts, the offense becomes predictable at this point. Such a good point.
Yes.
We should have Mark on the show at some point. So
Mark,
love you on the show at some point if you want to, man. So that's an excellent point. Yeah.
Emma has entered the chat. Emma has entered the building. All right, guys. Well, so there you go. There we have our big discussion today. How are we going to do? Well, how did you feel about Monday's game?
Oh, it was fun. I mean, the Rams are not a good team right now. The Packers are like not a great team, so they beat them. But it was still a fun game. I was not surprised that Baker didn't do anything like magical like he did in the game against the Raiders. But it was a lot of fun to watch. And what was the thing? I really want to see Christian Watson keep his streak alive. It's too bad there wasn't better communication there for that to happen. But no, it was a lot of fun moments. I liked it a lot. What do you think, Dawn?
Yeah, it was enjoyable. It's nice to win. It's nice to win. It's nice to win at Lambeau too.
Yeah. It's nice to see Keyshawn Nixon rip off massive returns.
That's
man.
So good. That's
so exciting. The best
Yeah,
part of the
that's
game.
the other conversation is like, why has this taken so long? Like, what were we even thinking? What
What were the
anyway?
coaches thinking?
Yes.
All right, Don, should we bring it home?
Let's bring her home. Anything else we want to cover in the chat, let us know, but we're going to bring her home. We're going to bring her home, Maddie.
Well, all right, friends. Hey, for everybody who joined us in the chat tonight, thanks. This made it even more fun than usual. Appreciate you showing up. Really do. So, friends, you'll find links in our show description for everyone we mentioned. So please check it out. And whether you're a super fan or a content creator, we'd love to have a chance to interview you. So if you're a subscriber, our DMs are open at heywlyp on all the social platforms. We'd love to hear from you or someone you'd like to nominate to be a guest on our podcast this year. And folks, when you subscribe to our podcast, you help us to keep spreading the love in our community. And the best way to help this podcast grow is by sharing it with your friends and family.
Yes, Maddie, that's right, because we love you. We're so glad to know you and to be fans of you and have the luxury of being fans of the most storied team in the NFL. Mm-hmm. We appreciate your support, your subscriptions, and sharing our pod. And we look forward to seeing you next week on
Hey, we like your pod.
Football in general comes down to discipline and people owning their roles. And when you aren't disciplined or you go outside the scheme, bad stuff happens.